We ought to say what we mean and mean what we say, and probably use as few words as possible. I heard Dan once making the observation after we'd listened to a man speak. He said something along the lines of, "It's incredible how many words he can pack into such a small idea." And far from it being a mean-spirited criticism, it was an observation about our tendency to sometimes talk around a subject or use many more words than are necessary. I'm probably going to do that in this video. How could you help it now that I've drawn attention to it? But where it becomes dangerous, I think, is in the form of euphemisms, or when we seek to twist, distort, or change the meaning of something, or hide its true intent, or hide its true meaning for a nefarious purpose. And I've recently read Brave New World and 1984. Both kind of present a dystopian future where the words that are used to describe things are twisted and distorted, in one case, in 1984, into newspeak and doublespeak. And then in order to manipulate and control the population. And then in Brave New World, it's interesting because as the children sleep, they're conditioned with these recorded messages, and it would make sense to me that in our day we probably need to be on guard against the same thing. So I'm reading a book right now called Eugenics and Other Evils by G.K. Chesterton, and there was this quote. He says, "Most eugenists are euphemists. I mean merely that short words startle them, while long words soothe them, and they are utterly incapable of translating the one into the other. However, obviously, they mean the same thing. Say to them, the persuasive and even coercive powers of the citizen should enable him to make sure that the burden of longevity in the previous generation does not become disproportionate and intolerable, especially to the females. Say this to them, and they will sway slightly to and fro like babes sent to sleep in cradles. Say to them, murder your mother, and they sit up quite suddenly. Yet the two sentences in cold logic are exactly the same. Say to them, it is not improbable that a period may arrive when the narrow, if once useful distinction between the anthropod homo and other animals, which has been modified on so many moral points, may be modified also even in regard to the important question of the extension of human diet. Say this to them, and beauty born of murmuring sound will pass into their face. But say to them in simple, manly, hearty way, let's eat a man. And their surprise is quite surprising, yet the sentences say the same thing. Now, if anyone thinks these two instances extravagant, I will refer to two actual cases from the eugenic discussions. And then he goes on to speak about that. And in our day, I suppose we have similar things. You know, we'll talk about the conscious choice to terminate a pregnancy, an unwanted pregnancy, rather than kill a baby that's developing in its mother. And you might see that differently than I do, but I'll state it plainly nonetheless. And it makes me grateful that our Heavenly Father has provided us with His Word in such clear, simple, articulate terms, at least when we receive it in its fullness. You know, Nephi talks about this idea of plain and precious things that in some cases are twisted later by man. But I love reading the Proverbs for that very reason, that so many of them are just so brief and so to the point and have so much wisdom. You can almost turn to any page in them. The simple believe anything, but the prudent give thought to their steps. Stern discipline awaits anyone who leaves the path, The one who hates correction will die. Like a city whose walls are broken through is a person who lacks self-control. And I also love the fact that the Ten Commandments received by Moses in a similar vein, they say it so plainly. They say what they mean and they mean what they say. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not bear false witness, honor your mother and father, thou shalt have no other gods before me. And I want to do a better job of being precise in my language, clear in my thinking and in my speech. I know I have a long way to go, but I want to guard against euphemism. I want to guard against doublespeak. I want to guard against being on the receiving end of some of the conditioning in our world. It doesn't matter how many times certain things are said. If they're a bad idea, if they're not true, if they are unwise, I want to flee from or fight against or seek to counter those things with clear thinking and simple speech. I love that the creation account begins with, "Let there be light," and God saw that it was good. And I hope that that we can bring light to each other's lives as we continue to share our thoughts. And I'm going to seek to be as unmuddled as possible in the things that I say and do. Love you, boys, and grateful for your messages. Look forward to them every single day.